Hi, we're doing a recording today with Jason Simard, not Samard. Like I said, I'm very, very excited for Jason to be here today. He has a multi-7-figure business, actually two businesses based out of Nanaimo. He's killing it. One of the most modest, genuine people I've ever met. So I'm excited to have him here today. And I think that why don't we just start with how you got into the real estate industry and then how Sims coaching systems kind of came to be.
All right. Well, thanks for having me on, Skyly. I appreciate it. So how did I start in real estate? Well, I started from a place called rock bottom. I was at a rock bottom in my life. So I'll tell you a little bit about my journey to real estate. So when I was 19, I started working in the financial industry and banking, moved up pretty quickly, became a branch manager when I was 22, did that for 7 years, worked in that industry for 11 years. And I was pretty successful from a upper middle class standpoint. You know, my parents were pretty proud of me, thought I'd made it. My friends were like, you've got a good thing going. But I always personally, and this is just me, but I felt like I was settling in my potential. I felt like I had a lot more in me. I got married when I was 23. I had my first son when I was 24. I have 4 kids now. Unfortunately, just like other people, my first marriage didn't work out. So I went through a 3-year period. That was 29 when we split up. I went through a 3-year period where I was kind of lost a little bit. I'll be honest with you. It was a tough phase in my life, and financially wasn't so good. I went from having a decent little net worth that I built up for myself to being minus $80,000 in the hole because I didn't want to fight. I didn't want to be in courts. I just really wanted to create an environment where I could keep my sons. I had 2 sons with my first wife, where I could keep an environment where it wasn't chaotic and that I could look after them. And I believed that I had upside somewhere. You know, I believe that I could be something better for myself in the future. So during that 3-year period, it was tough. I'm not going to lie to you. However, being in rock bottom, there's 2 things that can happen. You can make a decision to learn from it, take full accountability and change your life, or you can be a victim and feel sorry for yourself. Well, the pity party for me didn't last very long because I started realizing, listen, my current spouse, my wife now, I love her to death, but she wasn't going to be the rock star provider our family needed. She was an amazing mother and all the things that she does, but I needed to take accountability as the leader in my family. That way I had to go and make a decision. I made a decision that I would never allow myself to feel that point ever again. And I went down the path of creating a vision for starting Sims Real Estate Group, which is a real estate company that we built. So my goal and my vision was that I would create financial freedom for my family. And this is something I'm going to show you guys. When I was flat broke, minus 80,000 in the hole, I still have this check. My wife and I wrote a check to ourselves, and we actually posted it in 3 different places in our house. And I had this on my desk, and I still have it to this day. But
is it $1 million check?
The $1 million check.
$1 million check.
And I was minus $80,000 in the hole. Had no idea how I was going to get myself out of where I was, but I had belief. So I started setting this vision out for Sims Real Estate Group. I was going to build a real estate company that would allow me to become financially independent and free. And then from that, I would build a coaching company in the future where I could help other agents be successful and in turn create a pension plan for the people that I surround myself with on my real estate group. The goal was to build the company and exit production in 5 years. I was lucky enough to do it in 3.5 years. I have been out of production now for over 3 years. My net worth is considerably more than that. I have built a financial freedom for myself, and now I'm obsessed with creating financial freedom for the people around me. That's really, really, really important. It's something that is a big driver for me. So my why when I first got into business was, how do I protect my family so that I never feel like the loser that I felt? Because I did feel like a loser after being a good provider. And that was something that, I'm an old school guy. I really took pride in that. I was pretty crushed. I'm not going to lie to you that I had got myself to that position, but I also knew that I had all my faculties, all my experience, and I knew that I could turn things around and I could build something great. So I went all in on myself for the first time. Being a bank manager was great and all, but I had what I call the golden handcuffs. I don't know if anybody can relate to that, but where you feel trapped, you feel like you're settling and you know you're capable of greatness, but the golden handcuffs just make it so comfortable. And there's not a lot of great stuff, believe it or not, that happens in your comfort zone. A lot of your growth happens as a human. And I can only speak from my male perspective, but like for me, my growth as a man has always come when I've been uncomfortable, whether it be fitness, whether it be business, life. Like I need to go through uncomfortable times in order to be the best version of myself. Like I learned a lot more during those periods than I do when things are comfortable. This is why I'm constantly reevaluating, resetting challenges, looking at the rooms that I'm hanging out in. Like, and this is something I'm going to challenge you guys to do. What are the rooms that you're hanging out in? Are you hanging around people that are lifting you up, that you're learning and growing from and bringing out the best version of yourself? Or are you in rooms with people that you're the smartest person in the room? Are you hanging out with people that are kind of like anchors, victims, people that are constantly like, woe is me? Maybe that's you. Maybe you're that person that's constantly like a victim. Well, let me tell you, all it takes is a decision, right? And it happens like that, as quickly as that, a decision that, listen, that isn't me. I don't want to be that person. And you start reevaluating the rooms that you're in. I came from a very middle-class family. I love my parents. I love my family. But like they never taught me about money. They never taught me about financial independence and freedom. Like from them, they would teach me to literally go exchange time for money and literally just do that for the rest of my life and just accept that I was going to be average. That would be the best that I could ever do if I took their advice, which there's nothing wrong with that if you can genuinely look in the mirror and say, I'm happy. But for me, I knew that wasn't me. I knew that I was a leader. I knew that I could create amazing things that would help the world, that would help other people. And for me, that was through entrepreneurship. So from that rock bottom, Skyly, my first year in real estate, I did 135 sales. You're going to be like, that sounds crazy, not believable.
I do think you're crazy, but I believe you because I feel like that's you. But it is crazy.
You're probably wondering, well, how do you do that? Well, I'll tell you, when you take massive levels of action and you take accountability for the fact that you're a fucking loser, pardon my French, and you need to do a better job to protect your family and provide for them, it lights a fire under you. Like for me, it was like there was no plan B. It was, I was going to make it or I was literally going to die trying. Like there was no other option in my mind. It was like a mindset where I was like, I am going to make this work. And see, this is something that people often make the mistake of, is they constantly keep a plan B, right? And they're always like, well, if it doesn't work out, I'll do this. So they kind of dip their toe in the water. For me, it was like all in, obsessed with the goal. What's the goal? The goal is create financial freedom and abundance for my family, exit production in 5 years, build a coaching company that would be a legacy that I could leave for the people that helped me become financially free. Because I didn't do this by myself. I surrounded myself with amazing people. So you're probably wondering, how did I do that in my first year? Well, here's the number one thing that I did. I created a one-page business plan, and you've probably seen it. Skyly should probably shared something like this with you guys before, but it's a one-page business plan that clearly outlined exactly where my business was going to come from. And I call that marketing pillars. Okay. So for me, there was 3 key pillars to my business. Number 1 was internet leads. The leads that some of you will roll your eyes at and be like, oh, those are garbage. No, they're absolute gold. And why I love internet leads is I can get a huge volume of leads that are very predictable day in and day out. And I focused on Google, Bing, and Facebook at the time. Okay. So my first pillar was internet leads. I wanted an abundance of opportunities because I knew I could control this. I can control my output with the phone. I could make calls. I could send texts. I could use video, email. And my job was to build affinity and trust with the people that I would speak to, right? I was looking to make impact. I learned how to become a great conversationalist. I would ask questions that made me stand out in the person's eyes, right? If you're that person that's like, hey, honey, who's that realtor? Who is that person? You probably didn't make very much impact with them. I wanted to make sure they knew my name, they knew who I was, and that we related on a human level, right? So I'd ask questions that actually built rapport, and I got to know my prospects. When you start doing that and they start sharing what they're looking for and the reasons why they're looking in the first place, and you find out about their hobbies, their occupation, and family, what starts happening is they start trusting you and they start feeling comfortable. I knew that I was going to be guided by core values, which was I'm not going to get any blood on my hands to build my business. That was another key principle, right? I'm going to look to genuinely build meaningful relationships, not only with clients, but with agents in the community. And this has served me well. And I can talk about later why that was so important. But the second pillar in my business was referrals. I went through my phone, I went through my email list, and I literally started with the A's all the way down to Z's. And I started putting people into my database, and I started creating what I call my database, my list, right? And I started doing my third pillar, which was videos. I was going to do, and Facebook at the time was like the main place that I used was Facebook. This is 6.5, almost 7 years ago, Skyly. So I know some of you are probably like, what a dinosaur. Yeah, I still use Facebook.
I still think Facebook's huge though. Like there's a lot of people on Facebook. So, I mean, obviously we've diversified to YouTube and Instagram as well, but at the same time, like Facebook still is like a big chunk of people. So
huge. And if I could go back in time, I would have done way more with Instagram and YouTube. Like if I could go and coach myself. But at the time, Facebook was the thing. And that helped me establish a brand. So I would do a video every 2 weeks that I would send out, put it on social media. I would send it out to my database and my list, which was growing because I was also doing the internet leads, right? And I would consistently do that. Every time I got a listing, I made a big deal of the listing. I would be part of the video and I would really showcase it, like the house was on cribs. Every listing got luxury marketing every single time. What's that?
House is on cribs. I love that. That's funny.
Yeah. So that was like the mindset was like, okay, you are going to see me everywhere. I was going to build affinity and trust with the audience. They would see who I am, so they would get to know. Yeah, some people made fun of me because I talk with my hands and you get all that. But you know what? People got to know the brand because I started a brand right away. Sims Real Estate Group was the brand that I built right from day one. Like literally first day I had a brand, and I started really focusing on driving that brand. And so by me taking massive action, and I was having a minimum of 20 real estate conversations every day, guys, just to give you context, like every day. Well, think of the compound effect of that. If you have 20 real estate conversations every day, you're consistently putting out content, you're consistently working your database. What do you think is going to happen over the course of time? Well, you're going to have what I call a pipeline. I did 27 sales in the first 90 days in real estate. That's how much of a fire I had under me. Right? But it's not because I'm smarter than you. It's because I took more action than you. That's the big difference, is I was an action taker. I knew that I was going to skin my knees to grow this business. And luckily for me, I'm not a perfectionist by nature. So many agents go broke because they're like, well, I want to know how to do everything before I do it. Well, that's impossible in real estate because you'll go broke before you figure it all out. Like you're actually going to learn more by doing than you are by just sitting back and planning for scenarios, because it's very tricky. Every scenario is different. There's so many different factors. So
and then
go ahead.
Jay, just let me ask you this question too. When I know that one of the biggest things for when you started, I remember you got an assistant like right off the hop so you could like delegate. But then did you have a mentor in the beginning? I can't remember.
Yeah. So my assistant actually was kind of like a mentor. She had 8 years experience in real estate. So
I didn't know that.
I could utilize her to kind of bounce things off of because she had a lot of contract experience. So I kind of utilized her and started, quickly creating mastermind groups, just like what you guys are doing here. I created some mastermind groups where I'd have other people that I could go to. And there were people in my office that I could pick their brains on different things. And because I did a lot of transactions in a short period of time, I learned a lot very quickly.
And like you said, relationships with the other agents, because right, like it's easy to pick someone's brain when you've like built a relationship, and like you said, you didn't burn any bridges along the way, right? So
exactly. And I was fortunate. I mean, I'd spent 11 years working closely with real estate contracts on the lending side, so I wasn't like completely unfamiliar with it. Listen, I'm a much better realtor today than I was in my first year, right? Because there's a lot of things you just don't know in your first year, but you learn through experiences. And I just took, again, massive levels of action, and I leveraged quickly. I knew that I wanted to build a team. So I registered a team in my first month. Sims Real Estate Group was like registered with the Real Estate Council by December, and I started in November. So understood that everything that I was doing, I had thought about ahead of time. I was literally prophesizing the coaching company. Everything that we've been building for the last 3 years, Skyly, I was talking about that in my first month. Like
you manifested it all. You were like, this is happening. And I feel like that's important too, that you're like, this is what's happening, so that you actually have something to work towards. Because if you don't put it into the universe, the likelihood of it happening, like I feel like it never happens when you don't put it out there.
Yeah. And here's the thing, a lot of people are afraid to put it out there because like, what if I fail? What if it doesn't happen? Well, I'll tell you, like, well, what if you never ever gave it your all in life? Like, could you live with the fact that you could be an old man or an old lady one day and like you literally have regret in your eyes because you didn't go and pursue what you wanted? And for me, I was like, fuck that. Part of my French, but like I did not want to be that guy. I wanted to be able to like one day be on my deathbed and know that I at least left it all out there and that I made impact. Like for me, that was really, really important. I wanted to also set an example for my sons and my daughter that like, listen, if you want something in life, yeah, as tough as it is, get after it and go make it happen. And I wanted to lead by example, right? I try to create an environment that protects my family, makes them comfortable, but I also try and put them in uncomfortable positions because I know how important that is for growth. And so many of you have gotten too comfortable. And the more comfortable you are, the harder it is to make massive change and impact because you're comfortable. And so what happens is we start settling. And for me, I didn't even have that luxury anymore because I was like flat broke, Skyly. I had no idea how I was going to pay my bills when I started. I really honestly didn't know, but I figured it out.
I like that you didn't have a plan B because I didn't have a plan B either. I was like, this has to fucking work because the reasons that I got into the industry was that I wanted to raise my kids. I didn't want a ceiling on my income and I wanted the flexibility to build my own schedule. And I was like, there is nothing else out there that can do that. So I'm like, I don't have a fucking backup plan. So I was the same way. I was like very in debt when I started too. And I was like, there is no other answer. Right? Like I like that you didn't have a plan B because I feel like a fallback plan doesn't serve you.
It doesn't, because it's like having a prenup. You're kind of already saying like it's probably not going to work. Right now, maybe it's smart to do that. And maybe I would have not been so broke if I'd done that my first time around. But you know what I'm saying? You got it. I'm just the type of person when I make a commitment, I go all into that commitment. Right. And I think that's really important. I see so many agents that just dip their toe in the water and it's like, well, what if the market's tough? Like interest rates are going up. I'm going to give you guys an interesting stat. Do you guys know what year had the most amount of home sales in North America? Anybody want to guess?
Was it 2008?
2005. 2005 had the most amount of home sales in North American history. Anybody guess what the average number of home sales realtors made during that year? Anybody? The average number of sales that realtors made in 2005.
I think the average, I'm going to take a stab in the dark because the average is quite low because it's like an 80-20 rule, right? So I'm going to say the average was like 25.
5.3 sales.
Oh, fuck.
5.3 sales. Do you guys know what the lowest amount of home sales, what year that was in North America? 2010. Do you know what the average number of home sales was per agent that year?
2.
0.
8.7.
What the heck?
8.7. So
because there was less realtors. Is that what?
Exactly. What happens is the market gets tough. People no longer hire their Aunt Betty who just got a real estate license. They start looking for market leaders. They start looking for people that have track records. So people who double down and are serious and committed about their craft and their business and have marketing strategies and plans are the ones that do the best. They're the ones that will thrive during that downturn. What you guys are going to start seeing happen, and it's already happening, is you're going to start, if you're a market leader and you're putting yourself out there, you're going to start getting calls. Skyly, I need to talk to you. My agent just isn't getting the job done on my home sale. And now, Skyly, you get an opportunity to be the second person to attempt to sell a home. For the last 2 years, there was none of that because most homes would just sell, right? You didn't have to have any skill. You just had to put it on the market and the market would drive the price up and it would sell. Now you have to get ahead of the market. You're going to have to manage expectations. You're going to have skills. There's going to be price adjustment conversations that a lot of agents have no clue how to have. But people that have been through some of these markets or people that have prepared and worked on their skills are going to be the deal makers. They're going to be the ones that can put things together while others aren't. And so what you're going to see is you are going to see some agents get weeded out, but they were agents that were frauds to begin with. They weren't ever going to make it. Like realistically, long-term, they weren't going to make it. They just benefited from a good market. If you couldn't be successful the last 2 years, you need to look in the mirror and realize that something that you're not doing is why you didn't succeed. You need to point the finger and take some level of accountability. And I think it's important that you get in the right rooms with the right types of people that will lift you up, and that you understand that like the only way you're going to succeed going forward is through massive action. It's through putting yourself out there and being uncomfortable, because that's reality. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying this to motivate you, hopefully, to like really take action, because this is an amazing industry, and there's going to be home sales. No matter what happens, there's still going to be home sales every month. There's just going to be less of them. And it's going to be, again, it's not going to be for the faint of heart. But understanding that the average realtor actually does more sales in a down market than they do in an up market, because a lot more of those deals are spread out amongst agents. A lot of new agents are doing deals for the first time, thinking they're superheroes because they sold a house over asking price. But the reality of it is, now is, can they sell houses during a downturn? And it's exciting. I'm getting my team. We do this thing called the war room every 2 weeks. I get my team really pumped up, and I'm skills training them and teaching them things to make them the best realtors on planet Earth that I can, because I think that's the only way that you're going to be able to compete going forward. So anyways, that's kind of my thoughts. I kind of jumped all over the place, but the journey today, Skyly, was first year, massive action, started leveraging early. So brought on my first assistant a month into the business. I had a Justin Timberlake headset on, and I'm pouncing around my office, and people probably made fun of me, and that's all good. But I was making contacts. I was building up a pipeline. Brought in an assistant because she had a lot of experience, and I knew she could take a lot of the things that I wasn't good at off my plate so that I could focus on what I do best, which is prospecting, developing relationships, helping clients, and really becoming the best realtor that I could. Brought on my first agent 4 months into the business. I hired them as an inside sales agent while they were doing their training to become a realtor. And that would be the training ground for them to become an agent. Jackie still works with me to this day. He's already done 80 transactions this year. In his very first year working with me, he did 78 home sales. He had that same fire. He had 3 kids, rock bottom financially, had no choice but to like get after it and make things happen. And a lot of the people that I brought on early on, Skyly, were people that had some adversities and were kind of at a point in their life where they literally had to go all in themselves. And it's amazing when you surround yourself with people that have a purpose and maybe have had some adversity, how much more resilient that they are than people that are kind of really overly comfortable. And again, at this stage now where I've created financial freedom, it's like, how do I put myself in uncomfortable positions again when things have gotten comfortable? So I've set bigger goals that scare the crap out of me. I've shifted my purpose now. My purpose is, how do I create financial freedom and independence for the people that work within my groups? That for me is like a big chip that I carry on my shoulders every day that keeps me motivated to keep pushing every day. Because I go through tough days. I go through rejection just like all of you do. That's part of it. Like, if you're not getting rejected, you're not putting yourself out there enough. I'd love to tell you that like every single appointment that I went on, I converted, but I didn't. I probably had an 85% conversion rate on the listing appointments I went on, but I was going on a lot of them, right? I was listing 120 homes a year by the time I was out of production. So that meant that there was 40 other appointments or 30 other appointments that I didn't get the listing. But because I was doing the volume and I was putting myself out there, a lot of people said I was pretty successful. And that's really what it comes down to. If you're comfortable and you're like, well, I get every listing I go on, and you do 5 listings in a year, are you really pushing yourself? Are you putting yourself out there enough? Because if you tripled the amount of appointments you went on, even if you had not 100% success rate, I guarantee you would do more business than the person, that's only doing 5 appointments a year, but gets all of them because it's their friends and family.
Yeah. It's like a numbers game. Hey, like the more you put yourself out there, the more appointments you'll have, the more you'll get rejected. But I mean, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how many times you get rejected if you get more yeses too, right? So, getting rejected does hurt, and I totally get that. But I mean, you're going to be ahead if you put yourself out there more often than someone who doesn't. Yeah.
And like, listen, like as a guy, you're used to rejection just in life, in the dating world and everything else. Like, trust me, if like, an attractive lady got to feel what it's like to just be an average, decent looking guy and try and date, we get rejected a lot. So we kind of are used to it. I've gone through that in my life. But in business, if you want to be successful and you want to be at top of what you do, you're going to face a lot of rejection. It happens. So does it affect me? Sure. It bothers me, but I don't let it stop me. You can't let it stop you from making the next call. You can't let it stop you from moving forwards on your dreams. Right? You just have to understand it's part of the process. And look at anybody that's been uber successful in history. they've all had adversity. Every single one of them. It's not like a straight shot to the top. Like a lot of people come from rock bottoms, and that actually transforms them and is why they're so successful. Because without a big fuel in your fire, why are you pushing yourself? Again, when you're really comfortable, people don't push themselves.
Yeah,
right? You have to sometimes create that environment where you've brought some chaos, where you have to push yourself. And I know that's sometimes tough when you're really comfortable. You're like, but it's so comfortable. I get it. But if you want to grow and you want to push yourself and do great stuff, you can't be comfortable.
It can be uncomfortable. Tell me more about this war room, because you were telling me a little bit about it, and I love skills training. So just tell me all the things about this new war room that you're doing.
So basically every 2 weeks I get together with my team and I do an hour training session, and I focus on different parts of the business. This week, that in our war room, we went over how to utilize holdbacks in your contracts so that you can put deals together that others aren't able to. 90% of realtors have no idea how to use holdbacks, and it's a massive tool. And so we went through that, and I gave specific examples of how I've used it. That's something that I would recommend that you look at, Skyly, and we'll talk about that on one of our next calls.
Yeah,
I'll go through this holdback thing because it may be something that you're not even 100% using or don't even know of, but it's something that'll help your new agents put deals together in a tough market.
Yeah, totally.
Being resourceful right now is going to be huge. So we go through that. We go through some strategies, like how to get buyers off the fence when buyers are like, I don't know if I want to buy right now. The market's crashing, and they're like in paralysis. This is like the best times to buy, is like when things are chaotic, because that's where the best value comes from, right? Like buying a house for $1 million, you can buy that same house now for $850, $825 in some cases. Like you can get some great value. So it's just being able to help people work through the panic and fear, right? When the market was crazy hot, the janitor is starting to tell you all about his investment properties that he's buying. That's when I get nervous, is when anybody and their dog is like, oh yeah, I'm buying investment properties left and right. When there's panic in the streets, that's when I start getting a little more greedy, and that's when I start doubling down. So smart money is starting to look at the market again. A lot of those people that are savvy buyers and people that understand that like you want to buy during these dips, they're the ones that are going to start pulling capital out. So help people understand that like sometimes the best thing you can be is a contrarian to what everybody else is doing. You have to get through the emotional panic, because this is a moment in time. We'll look back 10 years from now, and this will be a moment in time where there was crazy inflation because governments printed all this crazy money and COVID and blah, blah, blah. And we'll look back at this period of time. It'll be like the early 80s. All of our parents talked about the early 80s when, interest rates were like 20%. So this will be a moment in time like that. I don't think interest rates could go to 20% because that would be catastrophic. But I think we'll look back on this and be like, man, that was crazy, but it'll be a moment in time. And things will balance back out. And real estate, again, is still a great long-term investment.
Yeah. I feel that way with COVID too, though, is that like, it doesn't, like, it's surreal, right? Like the last 2 years fully happened, but it doesn't feel real. So like you said, it's just like a little snapshot in time, because what we're going through right now feels like it might feel really hard, and that we have to overcome all these things. But then once you kind of get over that hump, it's like, oh, okay. Like just really, it happens really quick. You think that 2 years takes a long time, and then you look back and you're like, wow, I just blinked and it's over.
Exactly. Right.
Just
So
like,
it's a moment in time, and we have to learn how to be able to trade in all markets, right? Because you're not always going to have sellers markets. We're about to go into a balanced and a buyer's market in a lot of cases now. So you're going to have to learn how to navigate that through a career. So it's just understanding that this is a long-term game. There's business that's going to happen. People have to buy and sell. People die. People continue to mate, which creates children, which creates reasons for having houses, right? And divorces continue to happen, right? As more and more people become stressed and miserable and, for whatever reason, right? Divorces continue to happen. So those three things are not going to stop, because it's just human nature. So as long as you get that, then you understand that, okay, like there's going to be different opportunities in different markets. The opportunity now is, you can go negotiate some deals again, which is kind of fun on the buy side. You can actually go and get concessions and do things. So you have to look at it that way. Sellers that have to sell, they're buying in the same market. So does it really matter if the market's here or here? I mean, you're buying in the same market. So, you're going to sell maybe a little lower than you would have 6 months ago, but you're also buying lower than you would have 6 months ago. So it's kind of a catch. It's like, it's all good. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah, you're always trading dollars for dollars. It's kind of funny when people do that too, because I'm like, you're always going to trade it dollars for dollars anyway. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, unless you're moving from like Vancouver to Kamloops, right? Because then they have higher price points. But either way, it is always dollars for dollars. It's people don't like uncertainty in the market. But like you said, I would rather buy when other people aren't buying, because now I just got a way better deal than I would have going into multiple offers.
Totally. And interest rates are in the 5% range. Well, historically, 5% is still actually very good. If you look over the last like 30, 40, 50 years, it's still pretty good. So, it is what it is. Inflation's is a problem right now. They're working on it. They're aggressively tackling it. And, within the next couple of years, I'd like to think that they'll have that under control, and then we'll see things normalize and stabilize again. And it's just kind of the way that it goes. But you have to be able to work really hard and work on your skills right now. This is the time to do it. Learn how to become a deal maker, learn how to build bridges with other agents, learn how to present offers, holdbacks, like the thing that I'm mentioning, Skyly. I don't know if you realize this, but you can negotiate deals where your buyers don't have to come out of pocket to replace a roof and the furnace and all these things. And you can negotiate that up front in a deal. It's all in how you structure it and how you word it in the contract. And these are the kind of things that I'm teaching my agents. And I have senior agents that are coming to these meetings like, I never knew that. I've been in the business 18 years. I'm like, well,
yeah,
you just learned that. And it's literally something that'll help you put more deals together. So
I do like the holdbacks, though I haven't used it for anything like that. We've used it for like, say you go through let's just say a rural property, because I feel like that's a good example where people have so much shit.
Yep.
And you're like, the buyers are like, I don't want all this stuff left behind. But we're in a good spot right now because like you can be like, well, we're going to do a holdback unless they get rid of all of their crap.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the time that I've used it. I mean, it's good that we're in like a slower market because I feel like we have more tools in our tool belt right now than we would have than if we were in competition and having to like get rid of everything. So it's nice to have
next
those
coaching
tools.
call, Skyly, I'll teach you how to use holdbacks upfront in a deal to like get like major things in your buyer's favor that are win-win for the seller and the buyer and put a deal together. I'll show you some really cool examples and ways to do that so that you can pass that knowledge on to your people.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. And then this is a question too. We are all from EXP on this right now, but people who are watching it might not be from EXP. Tell me why you decided to build your business at EXP instead of somewhere else. Because I think that, I mean, obviously what you have created is absolutely amazing, but there are different things that EXP offers for you to have a sweet team more so here than other places. So tell me why.
Sure. I knew I wanted to go independent. That I knew. I was at Remax when I started my business, and I realized like the Remax brand was not why I sold houses. I never used the Remax brand other than what I legally had to on my signs. It was always our Sims Real Estate Group brand that we had been promoting. So I knew that I wanted to go independent. The fees we were paying and the value we're getting just didn't make sense for us. And so I looked at buying a franchise. I looked at Remax. I looked at Coldwell Banker. I looked at Royal LePage, and I looked at all these things. And I kept coming to the same conclusion over and over. I'm buying a video store. I'm buying a video store. It's really what I came down to, because I was like, how are these companies going to compete with companies like EXP that are cloud-based, 10 times more efficient from a cost perspective than they are, offer the agents 4 income opportunities instead of limiting them to 1, and treat them like a partner versus them being a renter. So it made a lot of sense when I actually looked at the EXP model with an open mind and it clicked. I was like, I can build a global organization of agents, utilize the training and the support that I have, that I do in my coaching company, provide that to my EXP partners, help them build more viable businesses for themselves. In return, I'll build a residual income that I can then use as a pension for my family and the families of the agents and these staff that work with me at my group. And when that clicked, I was like, oh my God, this is game changing. And so over the last 2 years, Skyly, I went from 27 agents in my total EXP group to 411 agents today in 2 years. And this is providing me this year with $400,000 of residual income that I can now share with people that live and work in my businesses. Like I'm giving away 60% of that to people, and I'm making impact. Now their mortgage payments are covered. Their
grocery bills, like
bills, like all these things.
Groceries. You showed me what your rev share was that 1 month, and I was like, and you gave away, I think you gave away like 85% that month. And I was like, and it's just freaking amazing. Like I did tell you guys that he's one of the most genuine people I've ever met, but it's just amazing to be able to share that with like so many other people. It's not just like the one person at the top that's actually benefiting. Like you've created something where everybody is working together to help other people be successful, to help lower the cost. Like the cost of living is so high, and you just giving back as like a thank you is freaking amazing. So,
well, and check this out, guys. So I have agents in 5 countries in my group. There's 2 countries I've never been to. South Africa is like starting to grow. We brought on a lady into our EXP collaborative movement group 2 years ago. And in her first year and a half, she never spoke EXP. She just wanted to like use the coaching and the training that she got from us. Well, she doubled her business in her first year with EXP, like doubled it. And she was like, holy crap. And she's like, she had a legal background. She was a lawyer. And like, she's just the type of person that would not put her name behind something that if she didn't believe in it. Well, once she saw the results after a year, for the last 6 months, she's been attracting a lot of attention. A lot of people have been joining EXP in her group because they want to be a part of what we're doing. And so all of a sudden now this whole like line has blown up in South Africa, which I've never even been to. So it's really cool that a lot of the training, the things that we're teaching our people is now benefiting in like us seeing expansion in countries we've never been. I couldn't do that under a traditional model. Under a traditional model, I would have literally had the rights to Nanaimo, the city that I live in. I'm like, that's not very exciting. Like, I love the fact that I have people in Dallas, I have people in Miami, people in Chicago, people in South Africa, people in Alberta, right? Like all over that are part of our group, and we collaborate. We've created an infrastructure where they get mentorship, support, and training, and we get paid residually for that. And for them, they have a better model that gives them stock options, dividend options, passive income if they want to, and they can go and sell as many houses as they want. And they'll learn from people that are doing massive levels of results sales-wise. So yeah. It's the coolest. It really is the coolest model if you actually take the time to look at it and understand it.
Yeah. I agree.
But just like anything, there's going to be people that drink a different Kool-Aid and are going to be like, oh, my video store is the best video store. I'm like, awesome. I'm so happy for you. If you love
your video store. I've been at 3 brokerages. So it's cool for me to have been at a couple different ones because now I can see the difference. I feel like grass might always be greener on the other side until you know what I mean? Like if you came here originally, you don't know about the other one. So it's cool for me to have been at other ones and to like learn what it is that I was interested in, so that when EXP kind of came about in Kamloops, I was like 100%. Like I left Remax in 7 days, which I still love everybody that I met at Remax, but I was like, this just makes more sense for me. Also, mega team, which is something really cool too, that our team is working towards, is that you have your real estate fees to your brokerage every month. But when you are at EXP underneath a team, you have half cap. And then if you're on a mega team, I can't remember exactly breakdown for that, you get a quarter, which is insane. Like it just makes your fees so much cheaper.
My agents are paying 70% less us being here at EXP than when we were at Remax.
Yeah, just to hold your license, because I mean you have to pay that, right? So it's just, yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah, it is really cool. Anyways, I'm sure you probably want to wrap me up, but biggest thing, guys, if you're starting out or you're at a point in your business where you're like, I'm not where I want to be, just look in the mirror and say, okay, where do I want to be? And then build a plan backwards from there and create what I call a measurable activity plan. A measurable activity plan is something that you can 100% control, that you can influence, and that you can track and measure. And I'll give you an example of how I did this in fitness 4 months ago. 4 months ago, I made a decision that I no longer wanted to be, I called him beta Jason. You're probably going to not like the way I talk to myself, but I'm pretty like harsh to myself sometimes because I'm very real. I'm just like, realistically, Jason, you've allowed yourself to become this beta version of yourself physically. I was like, I gained 7 pounds over the last 7 years. I'm about to go into my 40s. I'm 38. I'm like, I don't like this trend. I don't like how I feel. I constantly am wearing hoodies. I don't want to wear a hoodie. I want to like wear a t-shirt and feel good about it. I want my wife to look at me and be like, damn, baby, you look good. Well, she hadn't probably looked at me that way in a while. And you know, rightfully so. I'm taking accountability. You guys may be like, this is harsh, but this is how I am with myself. I'm very real. So 4 months ago, I was like, I don't want to be that guy anymore. That guy's dead. Today, I made a decision. Today, I'm going to make like fitness a priority. So what did I do? I basically set up a plan. I set up a plan where I would go and work with my personal trainer 4 days a week. So I was doing 3 days a week. I was 4 days. I was going to document everything that I ate in an accountability group with my trainers. My wife would be in there too. And I would document everything that I would eat. And then I basically I took up pickleball and I played dodgeball once a week. So I was like, I'm going to literally have a plan where as long as I show up for my workouts, which I always do, as long as I show up for my pickleball and the things that I'm doing, I will be burning calories. I'm going to eat two times a day. So I decided I'm going to start eating at around 11 to 11:30. And that I would have my second meal at say 5:30. I'd cut out snacking. I stopped doing the occasional edible and things like that because, that made me want to snack. And I just literally started focusing on the action that I could control. And guess what happened? I lost 20 pounds. I can walk around with my shirt off now and I feel better. I can go and I've become this like better version of myself, this improved version of myself because I'm happier in my own skin. I'm in really good shape now. I feel better. It's translated into my business and my marriage. Everything has improved because I pointed the finger at myself and I just took accountability for where I was at. Do the same thing in your business, but please don't do what I did. Don't neglect your health for your wealth because health is everything. Your wealth you will not enjoy if you don't have health. So I have it literally everything is scheduled in my life. My workouts, when I play pickleball, my dodgeball, date nights with my wife, things that I do with my kids and my business. But I start with taking care of myself first. My wife is probably the best role model for this. I tell her, I'm like, babe, you're really selfish, but in a good way. I mean this as a compliment. She's like, what do you mean? That's like, most people think that's a horrible thing. I'm like, no. You've always made yourself a priority when it comes to like how you eat, your fitness. And this is why you're never depressed. You're a happy person. You're an amazing mother and great wife. And you look fantastic. Like she looks really good. She's in really good shape all the time. It's because she's always made herself a priority, which has translated into her being a better everything else. Does that make sense? But so many times, and there's a lot of women I'm seeing on this call. So I'm thinking like, ladies, you might be able to relate to this. Some of you are mothers. You always put your kids first, right? My wife's really good at putting herself first because she knows it makes her a better mother. And the kids benefit from her having the best version of herself. I benefit from her having the best version of herself. And I know that's like so counterproductive or counterintuitive to like your nature, which is always put your kids first and make yourself last, but don't. Make yourself a priority because you're worth it, because your health is really important. And your mental health is also important. And mental health comes from being like feeling good. Exercise is like literally would cure 95% of depression. Most people that are depressed or unhappy, it's because they're not moving their body. If you literally just did that, you probably would realize like not that depressed. Put yourself around positive people that'll lift you up. Again, look at the environments that you're in. The gym environment that I have is amazing because like there's super supportive, but there's some badasses in there, men and women that set standards that drive my internal, because I'm competitive. I'm like a very competitive person, like in a good way, but like it pushes me, and like being around that is making me better. So again, challenge yourselves to be in the right rooms and like being around people like Skyly and things like that will make you a better person. It'll make you better in your business. And I think like that is something, if you take anything away from today, is you can control your future. Nobody else can. Does that make sense? And just always focus on things you can control. Like you can control the number of conversations you have today, text messages, emails, the things that you do. You can't control the outcome, but you can influence it by just showing up and doing those things consistently over a period of time. Just like by me showing up, eating right, exercising, doing the things that I'm doing, even though I'm not where I want to be, I am well on my way to where I want to be. And it's the journey that's the most important thing. If you don't enjoy the journey of what you're doing in real estate or the journey of what you're doing physically in health and life, then what's the point? Because I'll tell you, when you hit financial freedom and those things, it's very empty if you haven't made the relationships in your life whole. Like you have to have good people around you, because money will not make you happy. It really doesn't, but it will give you opportunities, which is nice.
Yeah, I agree. And I love that you use your schedule so religiously too, because I feel like we can get caught in this rat race of like, there's just like, I'm looking at my room right now and I'm like, I could clean all of that. But I mean, it's not in my schedule. And I feel like you need to set time aside. Like even Joe says he puts his laundry days in his calendar, because you can get caught up doing all these things. And then all of a sudden the day's over and you didn't get anything really you didn't get the top priority items accomplished. Do you know what I mean? So like you said, prioritizing, making sure you put things in for yourself, put things in for your kids into your calendar first, and then schedule your business around that. Like I feel you'll get more accomplished in a day if you actually schedule it out in your calendar, because otherwise you just can run in circles and then nothing actually happens, right?
100%.
So
yeah. Truer words have never been spoken.
Okay, do you have anything else that you want to add for us? I appreciate you so much, as you know.
Honestly, like, thank you for jumping on here, having me as a guest, Skyly. Obviously, I'm always honored, and if there's anything I can do for any of you, just reach out. Always happy to help and want to see you guys thrive and find success. Whatever your definition of success is, what I want for you, right? Like, everybody's definition is different, but just remember that you are 100% in control of your life. Don't let anybody tell you what is possible or what's not possible, right? I hate when people say, well, they say that's not realistic. I'm always like, well, who's they? Is there this like secret committee that I don't know about that like dictates my life? Because I'll tell you right now that I am going to prove those they people wrong, because I don't know who they are, but like, they don't get to dictate my life. I do. I am in control. And the more you understand that you have superpowers and you can control your future, because it's like starts with your mind, our mind. Like, think about this. There's people that have literally like invented vaccines, people that have done amazing things from like nothing to that. Like, if they can do that, like, you can be successful in your life. There's people that have financial freedom. You're looking at one right now. I had to break free of the golden handcuffs, and I had to challenge myself to be in different rooms where I literally was not the smartest person. But by doing that, I started realizing, holy crap, there's some life hacks that I can gain and like cheat codes that I can get in life that don't involve having to break the law, but like it involves thinking differently. So anyways, point that I'm trying to make, I'm rambling, is just, you can control your life. Don't let anybody else dictate that for you, because the second you give that up, you're no longer in control of where you're going. And that's a bad place. I've been there, and I don't want to ever go back to that.
Big whys, right? We always talk about whys. And if you have like a really big why, you'll put in the effort to get to where you want to go.
Get uncomfortable, embrace it. It's scary, but courage comes after you do it, never before.
Now, who's making an accountability plan after this?
Awesome. and share it with me. I'd love to see your accountability plans, and create it not just for your business, but for your personal life too. Relationships are important. If you're in a relationship, please nurture those relationships. Don't take your wife or your husband for granted. Please make sure that you like invest time in those relationships, nurture those things, because they're important. If you have good, healthy relationships, do you not think that that's going to translate into better business performance? Absolutely. Right. Like, it's so important. So everybody that I coach, first things we focus on is like time management, personal time. Be selfish. You need some selfish time to work on you, whether it's meditation, yoga, exercise, whatever, but you need that. Second is your relationships, your hobbies, the things you're passionate about. And then third is you build your business around it. Moms on this call, please stop making yourselves last. Make yourselves first when it comes to looking after you. You'll be happier, and you'll be a better wife, better mom, and your business will do much better. Have a great day.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah. Thank you so much,
Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Appreciate you. Bye.
Thank you.